Welcome, all you lovers of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. It's time yet again for the thrilling, exciting installment of, you guessed it, Fear and Fascination, horror, sci-fi, and fantasy unleashed, coming at you live each and every Saturday night, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, that's 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Get Real Global TV and Get Real Global Radio KGRL. You can watch us live on our YouTube channel, Get Real Global TV. We're also Get Real Global TV on Twitch and TikTok. And you can check out our Linktree page to see all of our social media and website links. Just type in at Jennifer DeVoe Muse. You can check out our radio station, Get Real Global Radio KGRL on Spreaker. And we're also syndicated on iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube Music, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, plus pretty much everywhere else you can listen to podcasts or watch them. We're distributed by Sony Music Entertainment, Sony Music Publishing, and The Orchard by Sony, as well as 50/50 Global Music Incorporated. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Jennifer DeVoe Muse. Hello to everyone watching or listening to this broadcast around the world. And we're going to say hello to my lovely co-host this evening, Samantha Bailey.
Hello, everyone.
And we are our other two co-hosts, Shyler Staver, as well as Amy Bowman, are off doing other projects for Get Real Global Entertainment, LLC. We got Shyler doing a big old concert with 4 bands. So he's going to be doing live footage for that for Wicked Entertaining. So check that out. And Amy is off doing her own thing this evening. So we'll see them next week when we do Wicked Entertaining on Friday and Fear and Fascination on Saturday. But we want to bring on our wonderful featured guests this evening.
Hello.
True crime. And they also have a podcast called Murder Speaks. They talk about true crime and horrific things.
Yes.
This is Brent and Wendy Hinbest. I didn't want to say your name.
You got that right.
You said it right. You're the first person.
Awesome. Cool.
You need to say Hinbest.
All right, good.
Yes.
Well, at least I got
Good
something
job.
right this evening. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast this evening. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm very excited about this episode, especially when my daughter Samantha brought your info to me. I was like, ooh, horror and true crime and thrillers and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's amazing. How long you guys been doing this?
Well, I started the podcast initially in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fascinated about watching true crime, and I decided to make the podcast centered around women, about women who were brutally murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my husband just recently.
Well, we just recently had a format change. So just recently we were talking about it and thought, instead of her just reading facts of the case and the kind of the police narrative of the case, is we decided to switch it up a little bit. So she does all the research, gets all the information together, and then she sits down, she gives a brief overview of the case to kind of get the audience into what's going on. And then she starts going through the details. And then my role is almost like being the audience. So I'm hearing it for the first time. Questions come to mind, and then I ask questions that hopefully the audience is also thinking to kind of fill in everything so that everybody has by the end of it, a very good full understanding of exactly what happened to this poor woman involved in the case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of what's that show on like Investigation Discovery, like Snapped? Almost.
Oh my God, I love that show.
From
the
the perspective, it's not like a battered woman who snaps. This is men or people or whatever who have murdered a woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're like trying to figure out the crime behind it, how it happened, and
everything. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing.
Well,
it's
we kind of identified that most people that are fascinated by true crime are kind of interested in a couple of things. They want to understand the red flags to they know in a given case, like what should they have watched out for? What should I watch out for? That kind of stuff.
Right.
For some people, it's they really empathize with the victim, and then they want to understand what happened to them, understand what happened to the person that did it. For the people that on the empathy side, they really want to understand the punishment side of it. And then there's people like myself who are very fascinated with the forensics. So I love hearing about how, they use the GPS data from the person's phone.
Oh yeah.
Footage from all the different locations that the person traveled along. And then like oftentimes like the blood splatter and like things like overkill. So like when a person is brutally murdered, like with a hammer or something like that, oftentimes it's somebody that had a romantic interest in them.
Emotion,
and the emotion drives that. And then you'll see like in a case where serial killers are different, but when you're talking about like somebody that kills just out of like, do people kill because they want something oftentimes, or but if they just want something like money, then they'll oftentimes use a gun. There's a kind of a distance.
It'll be an easy kill.
There's a distance to it, not an overkill kind of aspect to it. So all those things on the forensic side is what really interests me, and I think interests a lot of people. But yeah, it is amazing when you're on like a Facebook forum, you find all these different people and the different things that compel them or that they find interesting in the true crime genre.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
For me, it's the psychology. I like the psychology. Like what goes through a person's mind? Like what makes a person want to take the life of another person? That's what fascinates me. Like, did they become that way, or were they born that way? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. The motivation behind things. Right. The motivation. Yeah. Like what drove them to do this? Brutality to another person. Like you were saying that. If it has a personal aspect, like a jilted lover, a husband or his wife cheated on him and left be with somebody else, or maybe he was just an abusive person anyway, and she was trying to leave him and he couldn't have that. Like he's like, oh hell no, you're not leaving. I need to stop you. And it's like, if I can't have you, nobody can.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Brutality. Like you can definitely tell if something, the more frenzied the blood splatter, the more personal you can tell that it was to that person. They bludgeoned them to death. Okay. Well, what drove that? Why did they do that? Because normally that's like a crime of passion, because if it's just like, someone killed because they like to kill, or is it, some people are just sick like that. You know what I mean? Like I watch a lot of like Dexter,
I love Dexter.
Special Victims Unit, like Special Victims Unit, Numbers, Criminal Minds. Like I watch so many of these types of shows. CSI, I watch so many of these shows that address those same subject matters. And I've always same as you, Brent. I've always been fascinated by the forensic of it. How did I always wanted to go into criminal and into forensics? I thought that was a fascinating subject. I wish I had gone into it, but that's like some brutality you would see on a daily basis. Could you,
that's the question,
as a person, handle that on a daily basis to see the carnage and the bloodshed?
I don't think so.
And you see what I'm saying? Not everybody's built like that.
So.
It's one thing to hear about it.
Crime, but
it's one thing to hear about it. It's another thing to like see pictures of it and stuff like that on like TV or something. But to actually walk into a room with the blood and that even just I believe that like we have a spirit, and we have the spirit has a memory, and like just the actual killing of somebody. I think that when you walked into the room, just that feeling of that room would just be too much for me.
Like the echo, the walls, like holding their like pain,
the animosity,
and their echoes of like their final death rattle, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Even more the emotion. It's like the the horror and panic of the victim, and then like the animosity and violence of the perpetrator. I think those emotions they're kind of like glue, like they stick. They probably wane over time, but like I believe there's something to that. Sometimes you walk into a place and the hair in the back of your neck stands up and you don't even know why, you know, like that kind of thing.
The energy.
That's
the energy,
creepy.
exactly.
That's psychic energy, whatever they call that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
whatever the term is, but like I think it's real.
Creepy. I think so too. I'm right there with you. And like I thought, well, I would love to go into this field because I love science and I love like the true crime aspect and learning about these things, like solving someone's death, like to tell their family, I found the person who did this to you.
That's the gratifying part, I imagine.
Right. But could you do that mentally on a daily basis? Walk into all these tons of rooms and see this day after day after day.
Yeah.
I think it's walking in. It's walking into that situation and seeing it. You see all the times, like, you know, cops will actually like leave that place and like they'll be violently ill because they're so disturbed by what they've seen. So like you have that aspect of it. You also then you have to notify the next of kin, and you have to deal with that emotion. So that would be hard. Like all that stuff is very difficult. The only gratifying part is when you're able to tell the family we have found the person, and you can give them that closure of here's what happened, here's what motivated them, here's what transpired. We've got this person, and now they're going to court. And of course, once you get to the court, it's out of your hand. Now it's in the hand of the judge and the jury. But you know,
but you also have to think of the aspect too. What if you caught the wrong person? What if the wrong person went to prison? Because there's a lot of cases also where people have been wrongfully convicted because some cop took it upon themselves to do something that they shouldn't have done, or a prosecuting attorney, or because they wanted to wrap up a case and get another win, or you just got to think about other motivating factors too.
And I think in the state, again, we're in Canada. I think in the States, the district attorneys are voted for by the people, right? Is that the case, or
where are you guys?
We're in Canada.
We're in Canada.
Oh, I love you Canadians, eh? Oh, hey, my stepmother's Canadian. My stepbrothers live in New Brunswick. What part of Canada are you guys in?
We're actually in Hamilton. It's just south of Toronto.
Oh, wonderful! That's awesome. Well, see, now we've had another Canadian on our show. I love this.
Yes,
I love this. We're global, worldwide. I just love having people from all around the world on our show because it's just exciting, and especially to find out your guys' laws and how things would be handled in a country like yours, where. I mean, I'm not saying our countries are vastly, massively different in the way we solve crime, but maybe you guys do have more laws that are to help the victims and their families versus what we have here in the United States. That's fascinating too.
I think one thing that is probably very different is, from my understanding, and I know all the states are different, and maybe even within the states, cities could be different, but my understanding is that like district attorneys are voted in. So they have a very strong motivation to solve cases. Coming back to your point of like, getting a wild hair up their butt about wanting to convict somebody that maybe even they kind of know probably didn't do it, but they've got enough evidence to try and pin it. So I think there might be a motivator there of like, I have to close so many cases because I have to, when I go to the voters,
I get voted in. Yeah, because I got to get voted in again in the next term. You know what I mean? So now the more wins I have under my belt, the better I look. If I have a higher close rate, you know what I mean? If I have a higher case close rate, I'll look better to my constituents and to my voters in my district. And so they're going to be more apt to want to vote me in the next time the elections come up.
Right. So, and I don't know, like I don't live down there, so I don't know how much that plays into it, but it seems like it probably
I'm
would.
Sure it does. Yeah. I don't know to what factor or what percentage, but I'm sure there are factors like that at play. Not every single one, of course, but I know there's too much corruption in our legal system here. So unfortunately, a lot of cases don't get solved. There's too much bureaucracy. So these poor women or poor people in general are being murdered And then who's looking out for them? Who's trying to help them and solve their cases so that their families know what happened to them?
Yeah.
You know, like in Canada, for example, like the only thing we vote on here is what's called they call it an MP. It's a member of parliament. That's the only thing you vote for. So you vote for that one thing, and then let's say there's 100 seats in Canada. There's more, but let's just say there's 100.
Yeah.
Whoever gets 51 seats gets to form the government, and then and that's it. And then whoever's in the, and if there's a majority, so we have like, instead of having two parties, like we have like three real parties. So two parties can get together and form the majority, and then they can become the government. Anyway, but from those politicians and from the parliaments at the federal and provincial levels, they set all the judges, district attorneys, all that stuff gets set by them. So it's not voted on by the people directly. And I'm sure there's puts and takes. There's pros and cons to both systems, obviously, but yeah, but it is very different.
I think a lot of the ways that your government works is better, and it's more for the people, in my opinion. In some way, you know what I mean? In a lot of ways, I think your government's more for the people, just in general. Like, you know what I mean? Like the laws are more, you know, to protect people and.
In some ways, yes. They're also very lenient on certain things. Like oftentimes murderers here will only get about maybe 10, 15 years in jail.
Oh, wow.
Somebody like Paul Bernardo, who you've probably heard of, like a really dangerous offender like that, they get like, I forget what it's called, but it's like a dangerous offender status, and they never get let out ever. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like I said, like both systems have their goods and bads. Like like we don't have as much control over certain aspects of government that you guys would have. So, but there's no perfect system, obviously. I mean, every system is like the more control you give to the government, then the less accountable they are for their actions. So, but anyways, But coming back to what you were saying about like like not being able to like when you're walking into all these cases all the time, how long could you stand it? One of the most famous true crime shows is called Homicide Hunter. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's hosted by a former detective named Joe Kenda. He's very famous in the crime world.
It's a really good show. You should watch it.
Yeah. I was watching one episode. Yeah, I was watching one episode, and he was talking about what ended his career. Because he dealt with murders, you know, for I don't know how long he did his job for, like probably around 20 years or plus. And he was saying that the one case that he wound up deciding he had to leave law enforcement was a grandfather that was molesting his own grandson, or maybe it was a granddaughter. I forget if it was either a granddaughter or grandson. And Ken was interviewing him, and he said that the child wanted it. The child was asking for it, and I think he said he actually wrapped his hands around the guy's neck. And then somebody.
I don't blame him.
Don't blame him either.
I think I would too.
And then somebody came in and pulled him off, and he basically was like, all the years of stress, and in this case, it's just the straw that broke the camel's back. He's like, I just can't take it. I think everybody has a breaking point where you go, there's only so much evil that you can handle if you're a normal person before you just go, okay, that's it. I'm done. I have to move on to something else.
Very true.
Yeah, I went to school for law for like a year. I was doing criminology. My family is a lot of cops and lawyers, and I wanted to be that person that brings these people to justice, and helps these families and to get, you know, a resolution to what's going on. You know, some kind of, you know, closure and stuff. You know,
and
then I started thinking about it. These people doing these horrible things, how long would I have been able to handle that? And I started to think, I know this man raped and murdered this woman. And I know, I just feel it in my gut, in every fiber of my being, that he did this evil, horrible thing. Could I, in good conscience, if he got off, especially because somebody didn't cross their T's and dot their I's, and they get off on a technicality. And I know, I just feel it in my gut. Could you just let that person walk away without wanting to find them in the parking lot?
Yeah.
want to take matters into your own hands. Like I was just like, no, I don't know if I can handle that.
That's how I feel whenever it's a child.
Yeah.
Whenever I watch a murder show, my husband, like I go crazy at the TV. Whenever it's an innocent little child, it's murdered by somebody, I am furious, and I want to put my hand to the TV and strangle that person.
Yeah, because we as mothers are fierce protectors of our young, and you have 5 little ones. You know what I mean? You have 5 kids, like so you know what that's like. Like if someone even looked at my child like that.
Oh no, it's over. It's
I would F them up. I'm just saying. I would mess them up. Fubar. It would not go well for them. And I don't know. Like certain, I'm right there with you. That's what I'm saying. Could we like? And you write this. You write these types of books, right? Actually, I know you're an author.
Actually, yes, I am an author. I have written, I haven't written a book in a while, but the last book I wrote was a young adult fiction called Masquerade of Lies, and it was a it's I guess it's not it's a like a whodunit kind of book. Like you don't you have to read the book to find out who was the murderer.
Right.
So yeah, I wrote that like God, how long ago was that? Maybe 2019, maybe.
Yeah, right before the pandemic.
Yeah, right before the pandemic, I wrote that book. Yeah. Yep.
We need to get you back to writing, woman. We just got to get you back to writing.
I would love to. I love writing, but I don't have the time.
You got 5 children.
5 kids,
you know, and 3 dogs.
Like YouTube channel. Like I'm busy.
She also has a ASMR YouTube channel. So between that and the podcast and work and 5 kids and all the responsibilities and stuff like that, it's hard to find time.
Yeah.
What exactly is I've heard of ASMR, but can you describe that more to our listeners?
I can do this.
Okay.
So
all right, thanks.
Take it away.
So I don't know if you've ever seen ASMR, but oftentimes it's people doing like kind of like repetitive sounds. Like it could be somebody tapping fingers, popping gum. It's like kind of weird sounds, right? So somebody might have like a bottle and they're kind of crackling it, the bottle.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so what happens is for some people, and I'm not one of them.
Like me.
For some people, like
I'm that person.
Yeah, those kind of sounds. Those kind of sounds actually like have a triggering effect. That actually gives them like tingles that goes through like their spine and their skin, and they find it very relaxing.
Yes,
that's a percentage of people, and the other percentage of people are people like me who, when they hear those sounds, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Like I actually feel like that sensation that goes up my spine isn't like a tingling, relaxing feeling. It's actually like it drives me crazy. So when I hear ASMR stuff, it makes me want to strangle somebody to death.
I think I'd be you, Brent. I'd be the you in this situation.
Oh, I love it.
I don't think I could handle that.
I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle.
She's like that.
I'm in the middle.
She's like
that.
You're in the middle? Okay.
But then other sounds, like more gentle sounds. Like the like scraping when they do the microphone, I don't like that as much. But if they're like putting their hands like in slime or like softer noises, I like those.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I do both. I do both. I'll do like the fast, like mouth sounds, and I'll do like the tapping, a lot of tapping. Okay. And I'll do like a lot of that, but then I'll also do like flow where I tap very softly or I'm whispering. Yeah, I'll do both. I'll do fast and slow.
I don't know what it is.
See, this is fascinating.
It feels like that. The whispering ones are the ones where like you said, Brent, where like it's just not. It gives me the irk. I'm like, no.
Yeah, because I think some weird creepy thing's about to happen to me, like a horror movie. I'd be like,
I know. I'm like, someone's coming to get me.
Be like, what's about to happen to me? Something is coming in the room. I don't know.
That's why I said it's certain ones.
I don't know if I can handle that.
I actually go to bed to ASMR. I watch my ASMR videos to put me to sleep every night.
You do like that noise machine? Is that like kind of like the noise machine where they have the different sounds, like the I don't know, whale noises or chirping?
Like for me, like I like the sound. I like the sound of like a jet cabin. Like those kind of like a droning sound. Yeah, when you're sitting in a plane, that the sound of the engines, it's like a consistent droning kind of white noise kind of a sound. I don't mind that. That'll help me to sleep. But this is but she'll listen to ASMR for the same like type of effect.
Yes, it puts me to sleep. Like tapping and then mouth sounds and just the snapping, like when you snap like this. I love it.
Yeah.
See, this is why I like psychology. It's fascinating. I'm just saying, because like same thing with the true crime though. It's psychology of people and their behaviors and their motivations. So it's kind of like that same type of a thing. I love it.
There's a documentary also I watched a long time ago. I made Wendy watch it. Made her watch it. I mean, I introduced it to her. We both watched it. It's a documentary about a hitman whose nickname was the Iceman, who worked for the mob.
Oh yeah.
And if you've never seen it, you got to check it out. He basically agrees to be interviewed by a psychiatrist, and I believe it's either 2 episodes or
2 parts,
something like that. It's a bunch of parts to it, but he really honestly talks to the psychiatrist about like his early life and like the things that were going through his mind as he was murdering all these different people that he'd murdered over the years, and the psychiatrist actually helps to explain to him, because he doesn't really understand his motivations in certain things. The psychiatrist explained to him, like, okay, the reason you did this is actually because of these things, and he doesn't get angry. He just sits there and listens, and then they just have this like open, honest conversation where he explains the kinds of things that goes through his head, and the psychiatrist kind of explains to him. So, for example, one of the cases where he killed somebody, he actually tied the guy up in a room filled with rats that were starved, and had a video camera set up that recorded this guy being basically eaten to death by rats. I don't want to get into a lot of detail because it's kind of gross. And then he said he watched the tape back later, and the psychiatrist was trying to understand like why he watched the tape. So he was explaining why he watched the tape. Right. And then the psychiatrist eventually clued in, and he said, okay, here's what it is. You're a sociopath. You don't have empathy. You don't like when you see, like when he's beating somebody to death or cutting up a body with a chainsaw or something like that, he feels no way. It's like you cutting up a piece of bologna for a sandwich. But in that video where he was watching the person get killed by rats, he had a reaction to it, and the psychiatrist was saying, the problem is because you're not empathetic with people. It took that extreme of a thing for you to actually have a spark of empathy. And so that's why he was so fascinated by it, because he didn't understand that he was experiencing empathy. But the psychiatrist was telling him that's what it took for you to feel even a smidge of empathy, and that's why you were so fascinated with that one, right? So, anyways, it's a really amazing. It's a really amazing.
I couldn't watch someone get eaten alive by rats. That's gross.
Oh, I always have to go.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. No thanks.
I'm looking, but not looking. I'm scared, but that's how I watch most horror movies. And horror is my favorite genre. That's my favorite genre of book, movies, and TV shows.
Same.
Even graphic novels, everything is horror, and it's most of it's horror. My favorite show is Supernatural, which is kind of like a horror and it's kind of like horror and fantasy, kind of almost in sci-fi-ish, kind of all mixed together. That's what I love about it.
Long time ago. I think we watched like the first season or two.
Watch it,
the first season or two when it first came out.
15,
and then we kind of dropped off. But we have some friends of ours that watch it, and they live in Calgary. They came in to visit us one time, and they were telling us about the show. And we're like, "Is that show still on?" Because it had to have been on for over 15 years.
It's even filmed in Canada. It was filmed in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
I love it.
A lot of shows are filmed here because it's cheaper and they get big tax breaks.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Hey, let's go to Canada. We need to film our movies. Okay, we're gonna come. We're gonna go over there. Yes. All right. I know she has some wonderful questions, so I'm gonna let her do her thing.
Yeah, go ahead, ask away.
This is kind of like off topic from horror, but I wanted to ask about your Fizzy Tizzy series.
Oh,
and yes.
Wow. Okay.
What the inspiration behind it, like.
Okay.
I love it.
Wow. Funny thing, I wrote that. Oh my god, I wrote the book so many years ago. But
I mean, I know roughly how many years ago because I know who the character is based on.
Yeah, because the book is based on our first daughter, Ashley.
Oh, okay.
She's 16 now, but
Oh,
when I
wow.
wrote that book, she was a baby. And at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. And I was trying to think of a way to just make some money because I was stay-at-home mom. He was working. And I loved writing. So I was like, I'm going to try writing some children's books. And the whole book is based around our first daughter. Because she had the frizzy hair. And
nice.
She had the frizzy hair and everything. So I thought, I'll call it Frizzy Tizzy. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole inspiration was our first daughter.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the stories in it were like loosely based off of things that would happen around our lives.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, I'm going to incorporate this into a story.
Yeah.
And like you said, she was looking for something that she's home with the kid with a baby.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of work, but you also want to have something that's different, like something for yourself that's different. So she's like, so what can I do from home that doesn't require so much focus that I can't be spending time with the baby? So yeah. And it was born.
My plan was to do more books based on all my kids. I wasn't gonna stop at just the one.
Okay.
But the person who did the illustrations, unfortunately, she passed away of cancer.
Yeah.
So I just I don't know. I didn't want to change the way the pictures looked. I want them to all be the same.
Yeah.
So I just stopped. I just stopped writing them, and then I started. Then I thought, oh, I'm gonna write. I love true crime. I love young adult. Like I love watching young adult shows and stuff. So and I like reading young adult books. I'm gonna try writing a young adult novel. So then I started writing. I wrote Masquerade of Lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the last book I wrote. And all my books are available on Amazon. People, okay?
Woo!
All on Amazon. All of them.
I love it.
Okay. Another question I had was, were there any other topics you thought about discussing when starting your podcast? Like, was there other ideas besides Murder Speaks? Like, no.
They knew.
They were like,
we said to ourselves, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. When I'm at work, I listen to a lot of stuff. And one thing that has intrigued me into shows, and I've heard other people talk about, is that the most important aspect of doing anything is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be something that is truly interesting and that you're truly passionate about. And Wendy's always been very interested in true crime.
Very interested in true crime.
Way before.
Yes.
Yeah, way before she started doing the show. And it's something that we both have a fascination in. I grew up reading Stephen King, watching horror movies.
My favorite author.
Yeah, he's the great.
Yeah.
And not just because I'm from Maine, okay? Or live in Maine. Or
You guys are in Maine?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That's
where
cool.
Stephen King is king.
I went to the school he went to. So.
Stephen King is king.
Are you serious? That's cool.
You went to the school that
Stephen King went to the high school he graduated from,
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, but I've always loved true crime. Like there's no other podcast I would have done.
Yeah.
Like I've always been fascinated about the psychology and the forensics and everything about true crime.
Yes.
So I thought, why don't I do a podcast about it? Like, you know what I mean?
So I grew up reading Stephen King. Then when we met, we both had an interest in horror movies. We used to go on dates. We used to go to every horror movie we could get our hands on.
Yes.
Renting horror movies.
Yes.
Yeah. And then and then from there we would watch we watched shows like Supernatural. We watched a lot of other shows like this. And then eventually one day we kind of stumbled onto like true crime TV shows. And there's just
oh my gosh, I can watch that all day. I can watch true crime all day long.
There's a million of these shows. So
they got a whole channel.
We started watching those, and then from there she was like, I want to do something in this area. So then that's how she started the podcast, and started doing all of her research and on stuff.
Now I also have a true crime YouTube channel called Murder Speaks, and when I started that channel, I started doing videos. Same as my podcast, but there's but in videos, and I would do like videos of like women being brutally murdered. But then I got out of that because it's a lot of work to edit those videos and the time consuming.
Yeah.
So then I stopped doing that altogether, and I just focused now on the podcast. But we still put the podcast up on that same YouTube channel. It's just that instead of being a video, it's a video, but it's just like a screen with like you can like just hear us, but you can't like.
It's basically like an audio video.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just for people that want to, if they want to listen to the podcast on YouTube for whatever reason, they can't listen to it on a podcast, then they can access it that way.
Exactly, but there's lots of videos on there. So somebody went on there, they could watch. Like there's so many videos that I've done before that are on there right now. So yeah,
awesome. Oh yeah.
Is there a favorite movie series that you like horror movie series? Like what would your favorite?
Oh my God, I gotta pick one.
I know what it is.
I know, right?
Okay, our favorite horror movie series is Halloween.
Yes,
Michael Myers. It's the greatest. It's the GOAT.
You would have loved one of our episodes back a few weeks ago. We interviewed Sandy Johnson, the one who played Judith Myers, the first person that Michael ever murdered on screen.
Wait, which one was she? Was she a babysitter?
The oldest sister. The one he came and he killed her.
Oh,
right at the very beginning in the very first movie.
Exactly. Oh, wow. Yes. So we had her on the show a few weeks ago. That was awesome.
That's cool.
I'm friends with her on Facebook. Yeah, super nice person.
Wow, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, that was a fun episode. That was fun.
That's cool.
That's a good series to love.
Every iteration of Halloween movies, even like the ones that weren't so great, I love them all. I just love the Michael Myers as my favorite.
Yeah, Michael Myers is good.
And then
he's awesome.
Let's go into some seconds and thirds, right? So I guess my second favorite, just from the first couple movies,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
So
yes, who doesn't love some Freddy?
The first Nightmare on Elm Street is incredible. The second one's good. I think the third one's pretty good. And then it gets a little cheesy for a little while. But then there's some later ones. Yeah, but then there's some later ones where it gets better again. There's one Jason versus Freddy.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
it's actually started to get. It's still a little. It's still like. It's a little over the top, but it gets much more serious. Like I think episodes Nightmare on Elm Street like 5 and 6 and maybe 4 were kind of cheesy, but they captured it back. But then a few years ago they tried to reboot it with a brand new actor, and it was just
that was kind of different. That was kind of different. I was like, this isn't Robert Englund. I'm sorry.
When they do that, it kills it for me. I'm like,
yeah,
it's not the original.
I think when it comes to Freddy, I think it has to be Robert Englund. I think he's just he's the GOAT. It's him or nothing when it comes to that character. So whereas luckily Mike Myers has no character, so people can just put on the mask, and if they just walk very stoic and slow, like it works no matter what.
And he wears a mask and a jumpsuit pretty much the entire time, so you never see his actual face. Really, you know what I mean? So any actor could play that. Like any actor could play that, you know what I mean? Same with Jason Voorhees for the Friday the 13th series. Like same thing with him. Anybody could play that because and there'd be people of different heights that played him, and that was wrong. I'm like, how do you have all these actors that are like 6'3" or 2 or 4, and then you have some dude who's 5'10"? I mean, you have to angle it a certain way to where the camera, you wouldn't know that the person is shorter than the normal character. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I think Mike Myers, I think with Michael Myers, ever since the beginning, the actor's always been tall. Because there's always like those scenes where he like picks somebody and lifts them up. And
he's always going to be this tall person. Like, how could you not have him like that? Because that's more menacing. You know what I mean? That's more of a menacing effect. Like, why would you make him some small little thing? I mean, I guess Hannibal Lecter was pretty dangerous, so you really can't count out the small people either. But
Hannibal Lecter could be a good series. I guess I haven't seen everything in it, but the only two I liked was the original Silence of the Lambs and then the Red Dragon, because it was him really in that character. But Silence of the Lambs, I think, is one of the greatest films ever made too. It's just such an amazing movie. Red Dragon's okay. It's not nearly as good as the first one, but
but you'll never hear another. It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. I mean, how many lines are that amazing in a movie?
Yeah,
that so many people remember them decades later.
No, it's 100% right. Yeah, Buffalo Bill in that movie, the guy that got to play Buffalo Bill was so creepy, and that's really the key of like those kind of roles. It's like even if it's based on a real person, it's like don't make the actor be based on the real person. You gotta find somebody with that kind of creepy like personality, whatever, and to really kind of like just sell the point. I mean, you're making a movie, for goodness sakes, sell the steak. You gotta sell the sizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say my favorite series is Saw, but love Saw.
We're Saw lovers.
Same thing with
our favorite,
famous lines. Game over. Like
game over.
Game over.
Do you want?
And then
let's
the bathroom
play a game.
Door shuts. Love it.
Let's
my
play
favorite
a game.
Series.
Yeah,
that's our favorite. Saw's good, and it's pretty timeless. Have you ever seen the spoof of Saw on I think it's on YouTube?
Is it from Saw movie or no? Because I know they did a spoof of that in one of, or not Scary Movie. In one of the Scary movies, they have a spoof.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is way better than that. This is basically some guy who's, I guess, really funny was like, what if that, the doll from Saw? He's like, what if the doll from Saw was your roommate? So like, it's like the guy wakes up in the morning. And the characters, the dolls at the end of the bed, and it's like, James, I want to play a game. And he's like, huh, what? And he's like, there's 1,000 mouse traps located all over your bed. And it just, I don't want to ruin it. Because it's really.
I gotta go check that out. That's gonna be funny.
It's like the guy will go in the morning to shave in the bathroom, and all of a sudden the door closes. I want to play a game, and he has to play this game to get out of the bathroom to go to work in the morning. It's really funny.
Oh God, yeah, I gotta go check that out. That'll be funny as hell.
I feel like my favorite thing is like I feel like I'm always learning new things about that whole series. Like I watch so many of those like timeline videos, and then it's just so thought out. Like all the little details that they put in those movies. Like I'm obsessed with it.
Some of them you didn't know were happening at the same time as another one, and you're like, what the hell's going on?
Oh. So like when they like say Saw 3 and Saw 5, there might be parts of those stories where they're actually overlapping. Timeline.
3, 4, and 5. Yeah. 3, 4, and 5, and even parts of 6 were kind of like all kind of like interwoven.
And then like the timeline's all weird. Like Saw X is supposed to be in between Saw 1 and 2. Is like where it's the timeline is.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
We have to check that out. I know I've seen the first 2 Saw movies. I haven't seen like all the different Saw movies.
Yeah, 10 now. Freaking 10.
They're really good. I don't like 7, 8, and 9 personally. I feel like they could have went without those movies. Saw 1 through 6 and Saw X are like.
I guess that could be like a true crime type of a thing. I mean, in the sense of like, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to figure out who was the person who did these things and why did they do them?
Yeah.
And somebody like John Kramer has like a whole psychology behind him and why he was motivated to become this person, because he wasn't a killer like that. He was just typically like, he was just really intelligent and he had something bad happen to him. He had bad things happen to him that affected his life, which somehow twisted his mind to think that it was okay to do these things.
Yeah.
Because I think the general gist of the shows is like, or the movies is like, the person doesn't necessarily have to die, right? They have to figure out how to save themselves.
Yes. Yeah. That's a big part of it. How do they? But some of those are unwinnable. They're not really like.
And part of it is we've noticed a lot of the people in traps somehow correlate to John, like his life, like they affected him in some way, or they got in his way. Like it's very like his motivation is very selfish.
Yeah, like a cop got in his way.
Oh, it's almost like the Unabomber. I like the Unabomber was attacking people where it's like they didn't even necessarily that person might not have even necessarily known why the Unabomber was attacking them, but they did something that directly or indirectly impacted him, and so he took out his revenge through bombs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy because like they all were bad people, but that's like definitely not the reasoning why they're in the trap. It's like, oh, you affected me in some way, and you're a bad person, so you're gonna be put in the trap.
Right. Yeah, but some of that stuff.
So like he targets them because of what they've done to him, but then he tries to like say like, well, you're this bad thing you did or this bad thing you do is the reason that you're here. But it's not really the reason they're there.
Yeah. But what you're doing to them by kidnapping them and putting them in these situations, how are you any better than they are?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to think of it from that aspect too. If it's a vigilante killer, you know, which there are certain people in like what you do for the crime, the true crime, there are people who are like fall under that type of a person, like a vigilante killer, where it's someone who feels that they've been slighted in some way, or someone they love has been slighted in some way. So now they need to go and avenge them and what was done to them. Like their girlfriend was raped, or their mother was killed, or whatever. So
you know what they say when you go looking for revenge, dig 2 graves.
Yes, very true. Exactly. What would you say one of your most famous or favorite true crime episodes that you had? What are some of the ones that would come to mind, some of the ones that fascinated you?
You got some older ones, and then for the newer ones, I got the one we did today. Actually, the one we haven't even released yet, which I don't want to get into too much. But
no, I know, yeah.
We just recorded that one this morning, but yeah, it's a really good one.
Yeah, the part, it's I won't give away what happens.
Yeah, don't.
But a woman is killed, raped, and the guy sets her lower half on fire presumably to cover up the scene. But then like that's the part that really got my attention, because you're so like aghast, taken aback by it.
Yeah.
And then like then going through the case and the guy getting caught and getting put away and stuff like that. That was the one that stood out the most to me, because he was the person that I was most repulsed by from the stories that I've done. But Wendy's done many more than me, so I don't know if you've got any that kind of jump to mind.
Oh, I don't know. I've done so many,
Yeah, right.
Right now.
Yeah.
I can't think of one right now because I haven't. Because I did so many episodes in the past, and then I stopped for a little while, and then we totally reformatted the way the podcast is, and now it's him and I put it together.
Oh, that's cool.
The ones that disturb her the most, like she said, just as a general concept, is anything involving kids. Like you'll see her sometimes. I'll come into the room and she's like walking back and forth and like agitated. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, this mother, you know what?
Yeah, I get so mad. I'm like, you know what? That person to be. So as far as I'm concerned, if you are capable of killing a child, and you should be put to death.
Yeah.
You should not be allowed to walk around the world with us if you're capable of doing that to an innocent child.
Especially the death penalty,
but in cases where it involves kids and people are like, that person needs to be put to death, I'm like, I don't agree with the death penalty, but I'm not going to stand in your way.
I mean, I don't agree with the death penalty 100%. But when it comes to kids, it just really bothers me. I don't think it's
I think you should be put in prison for the rest of your life without possibility of parole. Even if you don't believe in the death penalty, you can at least agree that it's okay for them to be put away forever and never come out and never get out again. Because there's also those other components of cases like that, where was there other aspects at play, like molestation, were they molested or raped, or were there like just so many things? Like I'll watch the same thing. I have the same reaction that you do, because I'm a mother and a grandmother, and my husband will hear me in here yelling at yelling at the screen, like, like just so angry at what's happening.
I get emotional.
And it's just like I'll start crying. Like I get so emotional that I'll lose it and just start crying. Because especially if you've ever been hurt or abused in life yourself by a parent or a boyfriend or whoever in life, like, you kind of, it touches upon you and even in a deeper way.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have a theory that like there's all these like legends of vampires, right? I think that the legend of the vampire actually comes from a grain of truth, we'll say, which is because the story of the vampire, if you strip it down to nuts and bolts, it's not really about like the supernatural aspect of it, although that's kind of a fun part of it. I think for me, it's like, okay, the story of the vampire is that the vampire attacks somebody, and then that person becomes a vampire, and then they attack somebody, and that person becomes a vampire. And oftentimes you see this in cases, especially in cases of like child molesters, where most child molesters are actually victims of child molestation themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Very
people
true.
that experience an incredibly traumatic event in their lives will
Yeah.
oftentimes seek out like reenacting that throughout their lives,
Yeah.
in some fashion. And I think that just goes to like human psychology, and I think that's where the story of the vampire comes from. Is like, watch out, because like even if somebody's a victim of something, it's like now you have to be super cautious, because that person then can then become a perpetrator of it themselves. And
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm taking the analogy a little too far. I don't know,
No, not
but I
necessarily.
think that's where like the idea of this, like the legend of the vampire kind of comes from. Is like it's almost like a cautionary tale that, like, when these kinds of traumas happen, you have to be very careful. Or maybe it's more of a cautionary tale to the person. This has been done to you. Now you have to work really hard to ensure you don't do this to others. You know what I mean?
Yes. No. Good point. Good point. Yeah. I like that.
I like, yeah. People. Oh, what happened? Like,
I don't know.
I know I've had thought too about like real life vampires. I don't.
You bumped this cord.
What's wrong with it? There's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, we can still see you.
You're good.
The light went
You're
out.
good. You're good.
I know. I've thought about it too, like what real life vampires would be. I thought about it because I saw this video where this guy, like, he does all these different supplements and things, and he also like gets his son's blood transfused into him to like slow down the aging process. I don't know. I watched that video. He gets his son blood put into him, and he takes his blood and puts it into his father, and it's supposed to like slow down the aging process. And I'm like, is this what real vampires are, where you're trying to like be younger and like you're?
That's super creepy.
I just saw that. I was like, is this it? Because I'm like, I mean, the whole
Also,
trying to.
you got to wonder too. Like, does blood work that way?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it works, but I'm still like, I don't know. The whole science behind it and stuff is very weird. Like, then they have to have like certain diet and all these things to like try to be the healthiest, and like, you know what I mean, so that they're rejuvenating. Is weird. Watching that video is so weird.
Everyone has its own thing, just like horror or true crime. Everything has its own take on that genre or that aspect of things.
Yeah.
Really.
Sure.
No. I know you had 50 more questions. I'm just kidding.
I didn't. 50.
I'm exaggerating, obviously, but
now, do you guys feel like with your podcast, like it would expand into other topics? Like, do you see it shifting more? Like, because I know you guys said you kind of changed the format recently. Like, do you see things changing in the future, or?
Like, what do you mean? Like the topic?
Anything. Like, how do you guys see it evolving?
Let's go into that.
Yeah, we took a look at the show before, and Wendy felt like sometimes just by just printing off like a sheet of facts and just reading them, she's like, it feels kind of stilted. It feels like a one-sided conversation where I'm just kind of like reciting facts, and it doesn't feel natural or conversational.
Like it's a science program. Like it's just a science.
Exactly.
Like doing it alone. I mean, I had fun with it. Like, don't get me wrong. I just love doing my podcast, but it wasn't for me as entertaining. It's like okay, I'm just reading. I'm just gonna read and that's it. But with having my husband on it, it's a lot more fun because he all the cases that I talk about, he knows nothing about.
Yeah.
So he's learning for the first time like everybody else.
Yeah.
So then he'll ask me questions. And then I'll answer. So it's more conversational now because he's asking me things and I'm answering them and we're going back and forth, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot better now than it was before.
And we're definitely open to further change in the future. So we're on some Facebook forums, and so we like to interact with people that are fans of true crime.
Yeah.
To understand like what is it that fascinates you or interests you about the whole genre.
Yeah.
So that it just kind of opens up our eyes. Like when we're talking about a case, is like, let's dive a bit more into this aspect of it and try and extract information that people would find useful. because
Right.
I mean, part of the purpose of the show obviously is to create like entertainment. But then a lot of people, they like to watch the true crime because they're trying to understand something. They're like, they want to understand the psychology of these killers. They want to understand the red flags to watch out for. They're especially, and I think that the reason that so many women are so fascinated by true crime is that I think women are even more puzzled by like violence than like men, let's say, because oftentimes like the perpetrators of the vast majority of murders are men. The victims of the vast majority of murders are men, but when you look at women who are murdered, they're almost always murdered by men. So and I think for women it's like the vast majority of women don't have like this murderous kind of tendency. So it's like I want to understand this because like it's so alien to me, the idea of like wanting to kill somebody, and then also like I want to understand the red flags because like most women are killed by a man that is in their life, somebody that they love.
Most people they know.
So it's like really want to watch out for this, like
somebody they know.
My boyfriend drinks and gets angry. Oh my god, what other red flags should I watch out for? Because they want to understand, like, am I in a dangerous situation or am I not in a dangerous situation?
Yep, most of the time it's people that you know.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because like growing up, people always say stranger danger, but it's not always the strangers. Most of the time it's someone that you know, your neighbor, your friend, your boyfriend, girlfriend.
An old friend that's always had a flame.
Yep.
Has always had a crush on you, and they're just now they're so filled up with jealousy that they just can't take it.
Yep.
It happens all the time.
I was almost one of those people that you wrote about. That you write about, or you talk about on your podcast. Yeah.
What do you mean? Like what? A bad situation?
I had a boyfriend, and this was before my children were born. I was 23, 24 years old. Went across country with this person. We were in a relationship for about 15 months. He brutally raped and beat me and tried to murder me on several occasions in several different ways. Tried to smother me with a pillow, tried to snap my neck, tried to crush my larynx, tried to stab me with scissors and knives. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how'd you get away?
I was very lucky, and I was in a hotel in Hollywood, California, and a guy from Connecticut. I was screaming, somebody help me, and I ran out into the hallway, and I got away from him for a moment, and I was banging on doors, and people would come out, and he'd be like, "Oh, she's on crack, don't listen to her, she's a drug addict." And these people would like look at me and just go back in the room and close the door.
Oh God.
And it took me running through the halls. There was a guy from Connecticut out there from the East Coast, from New England, that called the cops from a payphone in the hallway because he saw what was going on. And the cops came, and I managed to run. The guy was right on my heels. I'm running down the stairs and running down each flight. I couldn't get the elevator because the elevator wouldn't come fast enough. So I just took off and just ran down the stairs and no shirt on. He had ripped my shirt and my bra off. So I'm like running through with nothing on, just running through. And I was trying to cover myself, and I'm running down these stairs, like flight after flight after flight, him chasing me right on my tail, grabbing at me, just almost getting me. And I got down to the lobby, and there was 2 security guards down there, the dude from the front counter of the hotel and the guy who was the security guard. And they grabbed him up and body slammed him off the floor. And they held him until the cops came. So they called the cops too. So that's how I was able to get away from him. So I thank God every day for that guy from those 2 guys at that hotel. I don't remember their names, but one guy was this giant guy with red hair from Texas, about 6'6". He was the security guard.
That's tall.
Yeah, and then the guy from Connecticut. So I owe those 3 people my life.
Where was this guy from? Was he from California?
No, he was from Maine.
Wow.
We moved cross country.
A lot of these cases you'll hear like, even after the woman breaks up with them, like in your situation, that the trick is like sometimes like how do you keep that guy away? Because like oftentimes they take it upon themselves like, no, I own you, you can't leave me, and if you leave me, then I'll do something terrible.
He went to jail. He was supposed to, they only, because I was terrified to testify, he only was put away for 4 months, and he only did 2.5 months. And by that point, I was stupid. I got with somebody else. I got pregnant with my first pregnancy. I ran into that guy after he had gotten out of jail. I ran into him randomly in a city of millions of people, just randomly ran into him in Hollywood. I miscarried that baby the next day.
Oh, the stress.
Because I was that traumatized. But he went to prison. I don't think he will ever do that to another woman again, because when he went to jail, it was in the LA County jail system, and they're brutal out there. And he messed around. I guess he looked at the wrong gang member the wrong way or whatever. I don't know what happened. They pretty much like ripped his ear off, one of his ears off. It had to be sewn back on. Well, he deserved what he got, so I don't feel bad.
No, he deserved it.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, I guess he's terrified of going back. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, like that, or just like he was so traumatized by what they did to him that he was like, I will never be that person ever again. So I don't know if he ever hurt another person after that, but I'm just saying, for women like that, I wish I had somebody that would have taught me, those red flags like you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Wendy in her past, like nowhere near as violent as your situation, had a boyfriend who was all those red flags, and so eventually she broke up with him. But that's one thing. We have 4 daughters and a son, but our 4 daughters, especially the 3 older ones, that's what she's always preaching to them, is like, you got to watch out for, like, do they like
do they control you?
Yeah, control.
They tell you what to wear, where to go, who to talk to, your friends. Get rid of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And do they start isolating you from, because one thing that those guys have in common is that they all slowly work at isolating you away from your support system.
They do.
Yeah, because once they alienate you from your support system, you're completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you understand what that's like, but it goes back to that point. Probably 9 times out of 10, it's someone you know.
Yes, 100%. Yes, most like definitely.
Almost always, yeah. Except in the rare case of like serial killers or something like that, but the vast majority is like a boyfriend or a former boyfriend or some type of love interest,
husband,
like
or somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
I always tell our daughters, be aware of your surroundings. I think watching me watching so much murder shows, it's kind of prepared me almost, because I'm like, when I go out, I'm always aware of who's around me. Like if I go to the mall myself, I'm always aware who's behind me, who's beside me. Always.
Well, one thing you notice too is that the vast majority of women who are attacked by a stranger, they're leaving a store, very often a Walmart, but a store like a Walmart, they leave, they're walking back to their car. It could be night, with the parking lot's a little less full than normal, whatever. And then as they open up the car, the guy just walks up behind them, get in the car, pushes them to the passenger side, and starts driving. Now they're in complete shock. They don't know what's going on. They're not able to process that this is really happening. So they just kind of sit there in shock, like, even though they may potentially have had an option to jump out the outside of the car before he locked the car. You're in such shock, and then all of a sudden they drive off, and once they drive off, that's when you're in real trouble. Like if somebody pulls a gun and points a gun at you and says, "Get in the car," your best bet is to run, because they're most likely not going to shoot you in the middle of a parking lot. And even if they do shoot the gun, the odds of them actually hitting you is not as easy as you think. You watch TVs and movie shows, somebody shoots a bullet, it hits the person dead in the chest. The vast majority of times when somebody shoots a gun, they miss. So your best bet is to run like hell away, because as soon as they move you to a secondary location, that's when you're toast.
Yeah, right. They want your car, or your money, or or both, or who knows, you know?
Spatial awareness.
Well, usually if they're kidnapping a woman and trying to take her to another location, it's really most of the time it's involving some type of a sexual assault. Could potentially lead it to like a murder to try and cover up the initial crime. But yeah, it's like if once they get to that second location, now you're completely screwed. You've got almost no chance at all. Although, once in a blue moon, they can actually appeal to the person. I guess if that person does have any kind of empathy, there has been cases where people have been able to convince the person to leave them alone, and they've been able to leave. But that's very rare. The best bet is so as you're walking up to your car, before you get into your car, is like you're looking around, your head's on a pivot, right?
Oh yeah.
Is there anybody I don't know that's close to me?
I do that.
Like when you're putting stuff into your car, like go up and open up your trunk, put it in your trunk, close the trunk, and then before you unlock the car again, look around again. Is there anybody kind of in the, because if there's somebody close by, then just start walking back to the store.
Yep.
But if there's nobody around, okay, then you can open up the door. But open up your door, get in the car, lock the door immediately.
Yeah, I always do that. Even before I get in the car, I'll look in the car to see if there's anyone in the car. Even though it sounds crazy because I'm like, why would in the car? But
you should always look.
I always check just to make sure no one's in the car that me knowing, right? I always check.
Yeah.
Always. I watched the show. Yes. I watched an episode. I can't remember the name of the show now. But I watched an episode. I'll never forget it because it's in my head. And I always tell my daughter it's the same thing. Yeah. She was going to Target to buy a birthday present for her boyfriend. It was broad daylight during the day. Right. Okay, sun's out and everything. Okay, went to Target, and this particular guy was following her around. She had no idea he was following her.
Following her in the store.
In the store, she had no idea he was there
because he was following from a distance, right?
Yeah, he's just following around. And then it's on camera, and she's leaving the Target, going to her car, and it's like a flash, a light. It's like a flash of light. You just see someone just coming up behind her really quickly, and then you find out after that it was a guy pushing her, like my husband said, pushing her in the car.
Yeah.
And then and this is broad daylight. People walking around the parking lot, it's broad daylight, and then he's over somewhere, raped her and killed her.
Yeah.
And that episode is in my head because I'm like, oh my god, this happened during the day. You know what I mean? So I always ever since that time, if I go to Walmart or something, anywhere I go, I'm always aware of my surroundings. Who's behind me? Who's around me? You know what I mean?
Smart.
Make sure
that's good.
Yeah,
that's smart.
Tell my daughters, be aware of your surroundings. Always look around. Yes. My daughter loves going to the mall. I always tell her, make sure you know who's around you, who's behind you. Just be aware of what's around you. You know what I mean?
Tell her to carry
1 second.
Yeah, I tell her to carry weapons. I said pepper spray.
We can't do that in Canada.
We live in Canada.
We can't do that in Canada.
Canada, you can't carry any kind of weapon. You can't carry pepper spray. You can't carry bear spray.
Yeah, I would love to.
You can't carry any type of weapon
how is a woman supposed to protect themselves?
Exactly. Welcome to our world.
What?
Exactly.
What? Men are stronger. We need something to subdue your asses. I'm sorry.
In Canada, to transport a gun, you have to put the gun into a gun case that has to be locked, and it has to be stored in your trunk. So you can't carry a gun for protection.
Get to the trunk and unlock it.
Yes.
You've already been
I'm going to be dead. I'm already going to be dead before I even get to the trunk. I'm dead.
That's just to transport the gun. That's just to transport the gun to like a gun range or something like that. Like you're not technically you're not really even allowed to use a gun for self-defense here.
What?
I'm already dead. I'm
already dead. I'm already dead, buried. I'm in a pond somewhere. I'm in a
I'm screwed.
Oh,
so in Canada, what happens is, let's say somebody breaks into your house, you have a gun, you shoot and kill them. You will be arrested. No, not necessarily tried for anything, but you will be arrested for having killed the person. But if the police investigate and it's a clear-cut case of self-defense, then you will be released. You are allowed to defend yourself, but it's very tricky. You have to. It's not like you just say somebody broke in my house and I felt scared, so I shot them. In the States, if somebody breaks in your house, you can just kill them because they broke into your house. That's it.
It depends on the state. They call it the stand your ground law, but it depends on the state. Not every state has that as a law. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But you are allowed to defend yourself. It just depends on the severity of what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But in Canada, you can't just say oh, this person broke into my house, so I killed them. It's no. You have to prove the person broke into your house, and then you have to prove that person was a threat to you. It's not just enough that they were in your house, because in theory you could open up your bedroom door and say, get the hell out of my house. And like, in theory, they might just leave, right? So like, you have to then prove that the person was coming up the stairs and like they had like a weapon. They were intending to harm you, so you killed them.
I'm doing some standalone shit. That's what I'm doing. I mean, what's that? Home Alone. I'm doing some Home Alone stuff. I'm tossing marbles out so they can fucking fly down the stairs. I'm hitting them with a broom. I'm hitting them with bricks. I'm doing whatever I gotta do to get away. I don't have to kill you, but I can certainly maim you.
Exactly.
Put some Christmas decorations in front of the windows.
Oh, you taking some bleach? No, I'm taking bleach and I'm throwing it in your eyes. I will do whatever I got to do to get away. And I do not care. I do not care how badly it hurts you. You were in my house. You're lucky I didn't kill you. You're lucky I didn't kill you. I beat you with a baseball bat and I threw bleach in your eyes.
In your face.
You feel lucky that I didn't do worse.
This sounds like what Wendy would do if she found a spider in the house. She started throwing bleach, she started throwing gasoline, she set the house on fire, run out the front door.
I'm not a fan of spiders. Don't like them.
Shouldn't have seen you the other day. Then I had a little jumping spider outside.
Oh, I don't like spiders.
I don't like spiders, but like little ones, I think they're cute. The little jumping spiders, they're like itty bitty, like tiny.
No.
Yeah, not if they're poisonous. You wouldn't like them.
I mean, he knows me well enough that I don't even have to tell Brent why I'm calling him. He'll know by the tone of my voice it's a spider. If I just say Brent, like a certain way, he'll come up with a tissue. I don't have to tell him anything. He'll just know it's a spider.
I'm watching TV in the living room. I'll get phone calls from Wendy. There's a spider up in her bedroom. I'll get a phone call from my daughter. Her bedroom's in the basement. I'll get a call from her. There's a spider in my bedroom. I feel like I'm constantly walking around killing spiders.
He's a spider killer.
He's an exterminator.
Like Canada, at least has a winter. So like during the winter, there's no spiders. So at least there's like about 6 months a year I don't have to deal with spiders. But
it's 6 months. It's like here. It's like here in Maine, same thing.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, Maine, like Canada, you have a winter. So
yeah, I'm from the Canadian border of Maine, up on the New Brunswick border.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm on the New Brunswick side of things. We're in Holton, which is like the last stop on our Interstate 95. So it's like on the most eastern side of America going into Canada. So like we're over there. Yeah, so like that's where I'm used to entering. But I grew up like a mile from the border, like literally. So I'm used to like when I was a kid, you just I'm going over to Fredericton for the day to go to the mall. I'll be back later on. You didn't even need a passport at that time. You just go up, you like tell them what you're doing, and then I'll be back later on, and then you come back, and then you say, hey, I'm back, and then that's about it. And now you got about.
I think they started with the whole passport thing. I think the whole passport thing started just after the pandemic, because like for years and years you could just travel into the States no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, with us it was 2001. After 9/11, we had to have a passport just to go to Canada. It was crazy. Like, why? Why do I have to
I don't recall. Yeah, maybe it was
crazy. As soon as 9/11 happened here in America, they shut down all the borders.
That makes sense at the time.
You couldn't just go, but they kept it going. So now, like you could get a day pass or whatever they call it, I guess that's what my stepmother said. You can get like a day pass where you can go over to Canada just like for the day or two, or whatever.
Yeah.
But not have to have an actual passport. But that's still like, I used to just like, man, I said, if Trump ever became president again, I am going to defect to Canada. You will get a new neighbor. And I will I don't even have to have a passport. I can literally go to see my parents and then just walk through the woods and no one would ever be the wiser because we're from a border town. You just walk right through.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've been down to Orlando about 4 times to Disney World. So we started going down. When did we start going down there?
Kylie was baby.
Yeah, it was when Kylie was first born. It was 8 years ago.
Maybe about 8 years ago.
Did we have to get a passport the first time we went down to Orlando?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so it's been a while. Okay, it's longer than I thought. I thought it was the pandemic, but I guess maybe it was 9/11. Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Canadians are some of my favorite people.
Yeah, it's a nice country. Like, I love our. I hate our winters. I love our summers.
Yeah, I love the
super
summer.
nice.
I
You
hate
guys
the
are
cold.
super nice. Canadians. I'm always telling people Canadians are the nicest people on the planet.
It depends. Toronto. Sometimes when you're walking through Toronto, the people aren't so polite.
Yeah, it depends on where you are in Canada.
More like Quebec. No, I was kidding.
Quebec is like if they think you speak French, Quebec is like very polite. But if you only speak English, sometimes they can be. Sometimes it can be a little snobby, but like if you're a tourist and like doing touristy type things, you won't get treated poorly. But if you're just kind of like wandering around, like the people themselves just kind of don't have time for people that speak English. But that said, we've been to Montreal a couple of times and never really had an issue. Like it's not.
Oh,
it's
that's
not
cool.
bad.
Okay.
All right, that's good. Well, good to know. So, when can people hear your podcast? What day does it come out?
Comes out every Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Every Wednesday morning about 5 a.m.
Yeah. It gets loaded up
posted at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it gets posted up on Podbean and it gets distributed through like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Stitcher, all the other spots.
Not all of them.
That's great.
Not all of them. Yeah.
And then we also have a Patreon that comes out.
Yeah, we got a Patreon that comes out every week as well.
Yeah, so we do a second episode that goes to Patreon for any true fans who want to get some more extra content.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool. I like it. I like it. I know.
And then on the Murder Speaks YouTube channel, it just goes up on the Wednesday as well.
The Murder Speaks. Yeah. So the YouTube channel and the podcast go up every Wednesday morning.
Okay.
And then the Patreon just, I guess, doesn't like I don't know, same day, I guess.
Yeah, it probably goes up Wednesday after, I guess.
Yeah.
So you do the pre-recorded where you can edit and then upload later on. I got you.
Exactly. Yeah. I edit it. I have to edit it. It takes a lots of editing.
Well, she does her research. She does her research like on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday kind of thing, or maybe a little bit even before that. But like that's the time frame roughly. And then Saturday mornings we do our recording, and then she's editing Saturday afternoon, Sunday.
Yep.
And she does some of her ASMR videos on Saturday afternoon. So there's most of the editing on everything happens on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then finishes up editing Monday, Tuesday, and stuff starts getting posted on Wednesdays. So
on Instagram or TikTok, everything gets posted. Like we have videos that we do, we post them like smaller versions of those videos 3 times a week on Instagram and on TikTok.
Yeah. Just give people a little taste of it.
Yeah.
Here's a little flavor of the show, and then if you're interested, here's where you can find it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Nice. Yeah. All right.
That's
great.
I'm gonna mention one more thing too.
Oh, right.
For all you true crime fans out there, we do have a store as well. It's called Crystal Kiss, and we sell all sorts of women's true crime merch.
Yeah.
T-shirts, crop tops, hoodies, joggers. And even like a Murder Speaks hat. It's geared towards women. There's a couple of unisex stuff on there, but mostly towards women.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
That was badass. And then, for all you people that aren't Canadian, well, we get a woman's packet that has like pepper spray and a taser in it. No, I was kidding. You can carry it in your car.
I want that packet. I can't use it.
That would be awesome. See, there's merch to sell to other countries. You know what I mean? Like,
Actually, it's funny because the supplier for most of the merchandise is actually an American supplier. So our shipping in the United States is actually free.
Our shipping is free for our store.
We're in Canada. Awesome. Our store is Canadian. Our shipping to Canada costs money, but the shipping to the States is actually free.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's just how the world works.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So I'm glad we're just make sure everybody goes murderspeaks.com and you can check
everything there.
Podcast. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And you got links to all your stuff on there, like your social media and everything else.
Yep.
Pretty much. I have to update it, but there's pretty much on up there.
All the most important stuff.
All the most important stuff, yeah.
Awesome. And where can people find you on like Instagram and Facebook and things like that?
So I have so many channels. Okay, so for the store, it's at Crystal Kiss 1.
Okay.
For our podcast, it's Murder Speaks Podcast at Murder Speaks Podcast.
Okay.
And then TikTok, same thing, Crystal Kiss 1. And for our podcast, I think it's the same thing. I think it's Murder Speaks.
Yeah.
If you Google Murder Speaks TikTok, it will you'll find us. Because we're the only Murder Speaks on TikTok.
Yeah.
So there's no other one.
Awesome. And then I know you have the ASMR also.
Yes. So that my channel, my main channel that I do most of my work on is Wendy _ podcast ASMR. Or it's either Wendy _ podcast ASMR or it's Wendy. I think that's what it is. Wendy _ podcaster ASMR.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So if you search Wendy _ podcaster ASMR, you'll find me.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who like ASMR, I know some people don't like it, but for those of you who actually, it puts you to sleep. If you like to be put to sleep, or if it relaxes you, you get those tingles.
Yep.
Then you'll find me.
Yep. If you experience stress and ASMR is your trigger to help you really deal with stress and anxiety, then yeah.
I get anxious and it relaxes me.
That's great
when I listen to it.
Yeah. Well, because everybody's different, you know what I mean? Everybody's got something that right? Everybody's so different that it's whatever works for you.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
And you can't judge other people. I always tell people don't judge others unless you understand what's going on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or
everybody's
if
different.
You're like me and my wife when you're watching something on TV and you just feel like making fun of somebody, go ahead and judge, but keep it between you and your spouse.
I love it. No, it is a judge-free zone here. This is a judge-free zone. All right. All right. Well, we want to thank Brent and Wendy for being on the show today. We appreciate you. Go check out their podcast. Go to their website, murderspeaks.com, and you can find them on Podbean and on all the different sites where you can watch or listen to podcasts, especially their YouTube channel, youtube.com, and then /@murderspeaks. Is that how it is? Right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then go check out all their social media. So the biggest thing, everybody out there, is like, share, subscribe, and follow.
Yes.
Share.
Please.
Yes. Especially share. It helps to get the word out so that more people.
The grassroots campaign.
Exactly. Please share.
Yes. Yes.
If most definitely. Share.
Yes. But watch away and listen.
Yes. You guys will like it.
You know what? You're at work. You're at work. You're dealing with like mundane activities that you do all the time. I listen to podcasts all the time. I listen to some true crime. I listen to some comedy. Kind of mix it up a little bit, and just it's like it just makes the day go by a little faster when you're working on mundane activities. Every once in a while, you have to pause so you can really focus on like reading something. I mean, if you work in a customer service role, it might be impossible, but that's what I do.
Yeah.
A lot of people like it. Trust me.
A lot of people love that subject. That's a very popular subject. So
it is.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Dedicated to it.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you and everything that you put out into the world.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah, you guys are a lot of fun to talk to. So thanks for having us.
Yeah,
we try.
They're definitely interesting people.
Most definitely.
And you do your research too. I mean, you guys were asking us about Frizzy Tizzy. That was the last thing I was expecting to come up today.
I was like, oh, this is about Frizzy Tizzy.
She's very good.
I'm the researcher and I love research.
She's very good about that stuff. Yes.
Awesome.
I'm more of a go with the flow. I'm more of a go with the flow in the moment type person. Probably why I'm a masochist.
Yes, I'm like that too. I'm like you, Samantha. I research.
That's why I'm a masochist, I think, and do the live show versus, editing.
Yeah.
I'm a masochist.
She's you. I'm her. For real.
I love it. All right, cool. All right, well, thank you guys so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
And all right, everybody out there, go check out our podcast, Fear and Fascination, Horror, Sci-Fi, and Fantasy Unleashed. We can be found, and I hate to say this. Okay, so on, what is it? On Instagram, Twitter, and pretty much on Facebook. It's at FFHSFU podcast. I do it that way. Some of my other shows are not as long of a title, but yeah, you could just type in Fear and Fascination also, and it'll pop up. It's the only one like hit on the show. And we delve with the world of obviously horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. So if you are a lover of those subject matters and you want to check us out, especially this episode with hell yeah, with Murder Speaks. We're very excited. Thank you guys again so much.
Yes, nice crossover, exactly. Thank you so much for having us. We had a lot of fun, honestly.
Thank you. And you're always welcome back anytime you would like.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll let you know if we have any updates.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, most definitely. All right, well, we'd love to come back and see you in 6 months to a year and see how you're doing.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Right.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Right. Well, everybody out there around the world, thank you for watching our podcast. We'll be back next week with Joe Castro, special effects artist. You're going to love it. He's done some of the most horrifyingly crazy things with his art, and you need to see him. And one of the only people who ever walked away from the show Face Off.
It's like a true reality show.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Reality show where they do special effects, makeup, and shit. Hell yeah!
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, till next time. Fun. Have a good week. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.